Hello everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 13 mini and see how it compares against the iPhone SE 3, aka the iPhone SE 2022 model, and see how both these particular iPhones basically hold up in 2024. Now, the big thing I would definitely tell you is, I think in almost every single way I can imagine, the iPhone 13 mini is probably the better one. If I'm going to go and pick up one, that is kind of the console that I look at as probably being the significantly better one for the average person. I think the iPhone 13 mini is still a good phone. I think it still had a lot of stuff and brought a lot of stuff to the table. But even with the iPhone SE 3, I just think the iPhone 13 mini, even though it wasn't like the biggest flagship at the time, it was still just a significantly better phone in my personal opinion than the iPhone SE 3. And we'll talk about that throughout this whole entire video. A big thing to keep in mind is that if you want to go and pick up either one of these phones throughout this whole entire video or some other phones I'd recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside, the iPhone 13 mini did come out in 2021. So it did come out quite some time ago. Now on the front of this particular phone, you're getting a 5.4-inch Super Retina Extra OLED display. So with this particular device, what you have to keep in mind is that it is a smaller panel. It's a smaller panel than a lot of phones, but it is a bigger panel for the most part than something like the iPhone SE, 3. So if you're trying to go through and pick up a device, you're definitely going to be getting a better, panel in almost every single way instead of the iPhone 13 mini, rather than the iPhone SE 3. The SE 3, you're getting a smaller panel, but the 13 mini is still an OLED. It's still a great panel, 1080p, high resolution. It's a very good panel inside of that phone, and I'm a humongous fan of the way that particular panel still holds up. With the iPhone SE 3, on the other hand, this particular phone on the front is giving you a 4.7-inch Retina IPS LCD panel. It's 750p, and inside of that particular device, once again, this is kind of a pretty average panel as you'd probably expect. The iPhone SE 3's panel, I've never been a fan of. The iPhone SE 2 I was kind of okay with when it first came out. I would definitely tell you from every single way and every single angle I've seen it, you are much better off buying something like an iPhone 13 mini type of panel rather than the iPhone SE 3 panel. And that's just kind of the way it goes. So when I'm looking at it, that's kind of the big thing to kind of keep in mind here. On the bottom, you're getting lightning ports on both, which is amazing. I love having lightning, and it's definitely a really cool thing going on here for the most part. They're curved sides on the iPhone SE 3, but it's a flat side on the iPhone, 13 mini. So the 13 mini still feels a lot more, up to date than something like the iPhone SE 3. On the back side, you're getting glass backs on both, which again is very, very nice to have. I love having glass backs on both these phones, but you are getting a double camera setup or a dual camera setup inside of the iPhone 13 mini, where the iPhone SE 3 is giving you a single camera setup. So beyond that, I would definitely tell you there's a lot of stuff I love about both these phones, but if I am going to look through at one device, the 13 mini is definitely going to be the better one here, and I totally lied. The iPhone SE 3 I don't really love, so it's just a very average phone. I'm not the biggest fan of that particular device, and that's just kind of how I feel about it. So from that side on the exterior, that kind of covers it up there. In terms of the price tag, this is also a slight difference for the most part too. With the iPhone 13 mini, this phone in the used market costs around $250, $350, depending on the condition. So it's not super cheap, but it is going to be roughly around that price. The iPhone SE 3 right now, you can probably buy for like around $100-ish in the brand new market, or in the used market. In the brand new market, it's a little bit more expensive. It's like $429, but it would be such a waste of money to pay even $350 for this thing. Like, it is now worth even $300 in my personal opinion, and you are much better off purchasing a device that is still worth it. And like I said, I just don't think the iPhone SE 3 is worth buying in any capacity, especially when compared to the iPhone 13 mini. So once again, from that side, that kind of covers it up there too. Now on top of that, between both these phones, when it comes down to the camera side, this is also a slight difference. So with the iPhone 13 mini, on that particular phone, you're getting a Apple A15 Bionic chip, which is great. We'll talk about the performance in a second. But the dual camera setup is a 12 megapixel wide and a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, where the iPhone SE 3 is a 12 megapixel wide angle lens. So from that side, both are great. I love both these phones a lot. They're very, very good phones. But man, the iPhone 13 mini camera is significantly better. So for one, you are getting cinematic mode, which is actually very cool. This is like portrait mode for video. And you are basically getting that inside of the iPhone 13 mini, which I think is very, very cool. With the iPhone SE 3, you're getting not that mode, which kind of sucks. You're getting 4K at 60 on the front and the back of the iPhone 13 mini. The iPhone SE 3, you're only getting 4K at 60 on the back side. So from that side alone in and of itself, that's another pretty big reason why I look at a phone like the iPhone 13 mini as being the significantly better device in almost every single way from that particular side too. So if I'm going to go through and pick up a phone, you kind of have to keep that in mind in the back of your head, that a phone like the iPhone 13 mini in almost every single way is going to be the better device, and that's the one that I'd probably recommend the average person to go ahead and buy. Buy something like the iPhone 13 mini, because that type of device is just going to make a lot more sense to go and pick up than something like the iPhone, SE3 as of this point. So I don't want to just keep harping on the same thing, but that's going to be a consensus throughout this whole entire video, if you kind of know what I'm saying. Now on top of that, the iPhone SE3 and the 13 mini are still supported with software, and because they basically have the same chipset, you're probably going to be supported with software for the same amount of time for the duration of time in the future. So it's not like because the iPhone 13 mini is a newer looking phone, or because the iPhone SE3 came out after, that these phones are going to be different in terms of software. That's not really going to be the case. Both these devices are basically going to be the same exact thing when it comes down to that software performance. There could be some changes Apple kind of throws in here. They could say something like, oh, because the iPhone SE3 looks older, we don't want to support it from a RAM side or whatever. But as of this point, we're still supported with software on both these particular phones. And I do think that's a very, very nice thing going on for both these devices as of this point. That we can just go through, use these devices as we normally would, and kind of have really good devices when it comes down to it, which I think is a really, really nice thing going on here. So once again, from that side, they definitely get a thumbs up for me. And I do like having these phones on that particular side because they hold up so well from that particular perspective. So from a software side, it definitely gets a thumbs up for me. Now on top of that, another big thing to keep in mind here too is the fact that both these phones, as of this point, like I said before, basically are giving you the same amount of performance. So they're both giving you the same exact chipset for the most part. So from the chipset side, you're not really, missing out or losing too much here. But the other big thing is that when it comes down to the actual using every single day, I will tell you from my personal opinion, using both these phones on an everyday basis, you're probably going to feel like the iPhone 13 mini is a faster phone than the iPhone SE 3rd generation. I feel like the iPhone SE 3 is a fast phone when the apps are loaded and everything. But if you're actually going through and using these phones on an everyday basis, you might actually feel like that the iPhone 13 mini is faster because of the app opening, app closing speeds, all that stuff. I kind of do feel like that a phone like the iPhone 13 mini might be giving you a better experience in some ways than the iPhone SE 3. So I think from that side, if you're going to pick up one of these phones, the iPhone 13 mini, in some ways holds up well, but I'd probably say that the iPhone SE 3 is also a good phone once the apps are loaded, but the faster one in almost every single way is probably going to be the iPhone 13 mini, and that's kind of how I feel about it. So from that side too, that kind of covers it up there. And to be honest, if I'm looking at both these phones, definitely looking at a device like the iPhone 13 mini is probably the better one in every single way. I look at a phone like the 13 mini, I'm a massive fan of that phone, and that's the one that I kind of look at as being the one I'd recommend a majority of people to go ahead and buy. I think the iPhone SE 3 is a good phone, and if you have the money, I'd say go for it, why not, whatever. But that's just good, not a phone I'd recommend the average person to buy, and you are much better off buying a phone that is going to be supported with software for a longer duration of time, rather than something like the iPhone, SE 3 as of this point. So from that side alone, that kind of covers it up there as well. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.